Our next nominee, Mr. Chairman, is Dr. T.W. Danagogo of Rivers State.
How do you Distinguished colleagues, we got before us Dr. Danagogo from Rivers State. Dr. Danagogo, we've got your CV, but if there is anything you think you left out of the CV that you'd like us to know, just tell us. Or if there is anything you have on the CV that you don't want us to, or you want us to forget, also tell us. We're going to ask you a couple of questions, and I want you to be as frank, candid, and as truthful as you can when you give your answers. Also, give direct answers. If there is any question you are not prepared to answer, you can always say you don't want to answer that question. Please.
Distinguished Chairman, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, let me particularly greet the Deputy Senate President, who has been like a father to us, and particularly my South-South leader and the leader of the Senate. I want to also particularly greet my elder brothers, Senator George Sakebo, Senator Wilson Ake, and of course my elder brother, senior colleague and friend, Senator Magnus Abbey. I would also want to particularly greet Senator Anakin Lopobri, who has been my schoolmate, professional colleague, and friend. I would also want to acknowledge the presence of so many of my friends, some from the House of Reps and others. Chairman, sir, I want to thank this distinguished Senate for the opportunity to have me in your hallowed chambers this afternoon. I am indeed grateful that I'm given the opportunity to, as it were, introduce myself to you, to this assemblage of eminent and distinguished Nigerians. Every time I watch this Senate on television, I look at the maturity and the stability that is brought into national discourse. And I only wish every time I watch you that I will grow up to be like you. I want to use this opportunity also to thank Mr. President Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan for finding me worthy to be nominated for this noble national assignment. I'm also very grateful. I want to say this. Yesterday, I was watching the proceedings of the Senate, and ironically, I felt this sense of delight and excitement when I noticed the sentiments that were expressed by some senators, which tends to tell me that they want the youths of this country, who are the leaders of tomorrow, to be given higher challenges so that they can work hand in hand with the elders and the leaders to learn the challenges of leadership so that they can properly assume leadership in future. I want to thank you for that progressive sentiment and assure you that the young generation of Nigerian leaders will certainly live up to your expectation and make you truly, truly proud. I have nothing much to say except to say that I am Dr. Tammy Danagogo. I come from Abonima. It's in Akukutor local government area of Rivers State. I am a lawyer by profession. I've been a lawyer for the past about 23 years. I was called to the Nigerian bar in 1991 after qualifying from the Nigerian Law School, Lagos, with a second-class upper division. I had my first degree, my master's degree, and a PhD, all in law. I had my PhD from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka with specialization in disputes with human rights and dispute settlement. I had my national service in Lagos State, 1991-92, where I cut my teeth in legal practice. And from 1992 to 2001, I was engaged in very active legal practice in Port Harcourt. In 2001, I was elected the state legal advisor of PDP in Rivers State. I served meritoriously in that position, and in 2004, I was again elected the executive chairman of my local government in Rivers State. I served out my 3-year tenure, and then had a brief stint as a lecturer in the Faculty of Law at the Rivers State University. I was there when, in November 2007, I was appointed the Honorable Commissioner for Local Governments, Chieftaincy, and Community Affairs, Rivers State. I served in that capacity until 2011. And upon the re-election of my governor, His Excellency, Right Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amechi, I was reappointed and reassigned to the Ministry of Urban Development and Physical Planning. I held that position until December 2013, when I resigned. Briefly, I want to say that I was at the threshold of going back to my profession as a lawyer and a lecturer when I had this noble call for national service. And I want to assure you that when confirmed by this distinguished Senate, I'll bring to bear upon my responsibilities as a minister an uncommon sense of dedication and patriotism. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, seated as chair, my respected colleagues, James, and your manager, Delta South. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I am tempted to stand up to ask at least a question because of the quality of the nominee that is before us. It's a very loaded CV. Mr. Nominee, going through your CV, in one of your works, academic research and publications, particularly the one that you did for your LLB, the criminal liability of the press, for its publications in the Nigerian corpus juris. You know the existence of the Freedom of Information Act. I want you to share your experience and your knowledge before this Senate, and indeed to all Nigerians, about the Freedom of the Information Act, the benefits and the implications, particularly when you did a job, a work on it, much earlier. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. Only one.
Abdul Ningi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Abdul Ningi. I represent Bauchi Central, Bauchi State. Mr. Nominee, let me commend you for a very brilliant resume which you presented before this August Senate. And I'm interested in knowing your ideas about the totality on the very many issues on the issue of in Niger Delta, particularly with regards to amnesty and the aftermath of the amnesty. The late Radwa introduced a system as an intervention method. Yeah, take your water. Intervention method in order for the nation to be able to give back to the youth of the Niger Delta what they failed to have over a period of some decades. I don't know whether you are worried as I am. I have been to these training centers where the youth of the Niger Delta are undergoing this training. Some are pilots, some are artisans, some are doctors, some are pharmacists. I do not know whether you have, at any given time, take time to consider the implication of the aftermath of such trainees coming back to Nigeria and probably being gainfully employed. Have you ever thought of what will be the repercussion if those trainees are back to Nigeria and have been unable to secure gainful employment? That is my first question. What will you say is the problem of Niger Delta as of today? Is it resource? Is it about resource utilization? Or is it about elite greed? Because quite a lot of money is going, but there is no appreciable evidence on the ground. What do you think going forward the National Assembly should do in order for us to start seeing physical benefit to the infrastructure in Niger Delta and to the youth in the Niger Delta? Thank you very much.
Atai Aidoko.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Atai Aidugu Ali. I represent Kogi East. Mr. Nominee, first of all, I want to say that you have a very, very impressive CV, and within this short space of time you have acquired enough experience, in my view. And also want to put it on record that at least for the first time, among all the nominees, we have somebody of our generation, a very young and vibrant ministerial nominee. As a matter of fact, you are just 1 month older than me, exactly 1 month older than me. So I find us in the same class. Now, these are some of the things, this is kind of fresh blood we look forward to being injected into the system and the federal cabinet.
That's right.
And I want to commend Mr. President for giving you this opportunity. My question is, if eventually you find yourself in the Federal Executive Council, and of course, from what we have seen so far, you're going to be the youngest minister in cabinet. No, in cabinet. In cabinet, in the Federal Executive Council.
Sports, the junior minister, sports.
Okay. Okay, you're going to be one of the youngest. Now, first, don't you think you'll be intimidated by the people you are going to be meeting there? And secondly, what fresh ideas are you bringing to the table to help this administration? Because we are aware that there's a lot of challenges in government. What fresh ideas are you going to be bringing to the table so that the youths of Nigeria will not be disappointed in this opportunity that is being given to you? Thank you.
James Solomon, Itaina.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me congratulate my learned friend for his nomination and his rich CV, and also appreciate him for acknowledging, as he should do, the distinguished colleagues, the distinguished Senator Ake, the distinguished Senator Magnus Abe. Okay, and Sekibo, and distinguished Senator Sekibo. Okay. Mr. President and my colleagues, I know that as a lawyer, you can be assigned to any office because a lawyer is learned and can handle anything. Therefore, oh yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I'm sorry if I join you. I apologize.
Please. No. Itaina, don't worry, you haven't said anything wrong. Except that you didn't add. Who else is capable of being anywhere? What other profession? Put on your mic and say so.
General Magoro and General Saleh and sir. Yes, sir. Mr. President, I want to say that. Mr. President, I want to pose one question to my friend. Can Nigeria survive without oil? And in addition to that, how will the South survive? How will the South survive after oil? In view of the fact, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. How will all the oil producing areas survive without oil if they are not investing the funds that we have from oil today in ventures that will survive the area after oil? One. Number two, what I'm sorry, sir. Now, how?
Point of order, Ayogeze.
Ayogeze, Enugu North. We know you. Order 53-4. The senator must confine his observation to the subjects under discussion I may not introduce matter irrelevant there too. This minister is being screened as the minister of the Federal Republic, not a South minister. We're not screening a South minister. We're screening a minister for this country.
He's talking about part of Nigeria. Yes.
Look at this Aguero. What is this Aguero up to? What is this Aguero up to?
Please. His question is, how will any oil producing state in the country survive? That was their question, isn't it? There is nothing wrong with that question. Carry on, Itaina.
Thank you, sir. Now, I raise this question given the fact that as of today, almost all the oil-producing states are only using the oil money in ventures in infrastructure and are not investing in agriculture and in a situation that will survive those areas after oil. What advice will you give as a member of the Federal Executive Council on how this should be reversed, including agriculture? That's my question number one. Number two, now as at today, Nigeria does not have, particularly in the south side region, other than the 3 or so major refineries, local refining capacity that will sustain the the refined oil, petrol, and diesel and kerosene that we need today. What is your suggestion on how we can have an increased refinery and refining capacity using modular refineries in the creeks and also protect the environment without damaging? Finally, in Nigeria we have a question of strikes all over, in the academic sector, in the medical sector, and other areas, all relating to salaries and salary increase. As a member of the Federal Executive Council, how will you advise the federal government on addressing comprehensively the question of strikes in all over the country, including the question of uniform wages in the country? Thank you, Mr. President.
Danagogo, answer these ones first.
With Senator James Manager, talking about my LLB research work, and the Freedom of Information Act. Let me note first, I did that work in 1990. By then, the Freedom of Information Act hadn't come into being. We concentrated then on sections 38 and 39 of the Constitution, which talks about freedom of thought, conscience, religion, and then freedom of expression and the press. That was our focus in that research. But I want to say that the Freedom of Information Act, to me, as an individual, is building on the foundation we tried to lay in that research. I think it's a blessing to this country because it will make information easily available. And when information is easily available to all and sundry, it naturally will help us to fight a lot of vices in the country. Vices like corruption and so on and so forth. If it is in the public domain, you will find out that everybody naturally will be careful in how they handle issues of national and state policy and otherwise. That is why I want to say that the Freedom of Information Act is a blessing to us. We should encourage it, and As we move on as a country and we begin to practice it, I believe that we'll grow to the level where information will become freely available everywhere. Then Senator Abdul Ningi talked about, distinguished Senator Abdul Ningi talked about the amnesty that was granted to the Niger Delta militants. Then the issue of the trainees that are sent out and how they will get employment upon their return, and a few others. I want to say that amnesty that was granted to the Niger Delta militants was a masterstroke. I can tell you, as someone that comes from that region, at that point in time in our history, a lot of us, as participants on the street there, were really worried that the president then, everybody involved, the senators, the leaders of opinion and government in this country were able to come out with that masterstroke was, in fact, to us, a divine intervention. And yes, the trainees are out. There are so many of them. We expect that they should come back and get gainfully employed. That, to me, is a task that faces every single individual that finds himself in a leadership position in this country. How do we gainfully employ these individuals who have sent out? It is not only to Niger Delta youths, even the youths in other areas of this country. Because when a man is not employed, naturally you said that the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I think it's a virus that affects virtually every nook and cranny of this country. So as a people, we should make conscious efforts to see how we will employ all our youth, whether those sent out on training or not. After all, to us, trainings actually should enable you generate employment. So that in itself is one basic advantage. But overall, leadership needs to make conscious effort to generate employment for the teeming youths of this country. And when you say that, what is the problem of the Niger Delta? Is it a problem of resource? Is it resource utilization? Is it greed? Well, to me, I will want to believe that it's a combination of all of them. It's a combination of all of them. I want to say so because I know, as one that comes from there, that the resources allocated to us, if you place it side by side, you juxtapose it with the amount of degradation that goes on there, you will say that it is not enough. But at the same time, how is it applied is very important.
I come under our Order 13 that this distinguished Senate sits beyond the allotted time of 2 p.m.
Mr. Chairman, colleagues, I rise to second the motion for enlargement of time to enable the Senate to continue with the screening exercise. I second.
Those in favor of the motion that the Senate do sit beyond 2 p.m. say aye. Aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, that is why I am saying it's a combination of all these factors. Yes, we need more resources in the Niger Delta, but almost everywhere in this country, we have the basic problems of resource utilization and greed that we need to tackle. We need to tackle as a country. That's why we need to build the various institutions that will enable us as a people tackle all these vices. My friend Senator Idoko asked whether the statesmen and elders that will be at the Federal Executive Council, whether they will not intimidate me. Well, I must confess, naturally when you meet elders that are very wise with intimidating credentials and so on, they naturally will intimidate you. But you must have your say. You must try to have your way. You must try to relate with them. After all, here, standing before you, am I not intimidated? Standing before all these eminent personalities, I am intimidated. But by the grace of God, I will try and make my case. That is the same thing I will do. That's the same thing I will do when I go before them there. And when you say, thank you, sir. Now, when you say what fresh ideas, I wouldn't say, but I would want to say that as a people, we need to place a lot of emphasis on certain aspects of our national life. Emphasis on economic planning, emphasis on physical planning, emphasis on change in group consciousness. We need change in group consciousness because a people begets her leadership. Until the people begin to change their orientation and how they see their leaders, they cannot get the kind of leadership they want. So we need change of leadership. We need to begin to build and strengthen institutions in this country. That's why when I started, I said, whenever I watch this Senate, I thank God that what is happening today is happening, because the effort of this Senate is geared towards building democratic institutions that will enable this country to survive in future. And then Senator Ita Enang asks, distinguished Senator Ita Enang asks whether Nigeria can survive without oil. I want to say that Nigeria can survive without oil. A lot of countries that have little or nothing, they are surviving without oil. Singapore is an example. We have South Korea, we have Japan. So what we need to survive as a country is not just oil. Yes, oil is an advantage. It helps us to have resources to invest properly to develop. But with or without oil, we can survive as a country if we place emphasis on the right things. And when you say how will the South-South survive without oil, of course, just as you have almost answered, emphasis needs to be placed on those building blocks that will enable us survive even if the oil we now have is depleted. Areas like agriculture, which you mentioned, areas like education on a very serious note, so that we will begin to develop the aspects of our national life that will generate the necessary income we need. And of course, the aspects of technology, development, and so on and so forth. Thank you, sir.
Okay, is it the wish of distinguished senators that Danagogo should take a bow? Doctor. The leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, this is as far as we can go today, so I ask that you report progress.
Progress. Second.